During British colonial rule in India, officials in Delhi faced a rather urgent, deadly problem: a massive infestation of venomous cobras. To get the population under control, the colonial government devised a seemingly straightforward solution. They offered a cash bounty to citizens for every dead snake brought into an office. At first, the strategy worked. Dead cobras piled up. But citizens quickly realized the bounty offered a very reliable income stream, so enterprising locals began secretly breeding the snakes for profit. Eventually, the government realized they were being scammed and canceled the bounty. Suddenly stuck with thousands of worthless snakes, the breeders did the most logical thing. They released them into the wild. Delhi ended up with a significantly higher cobra population than before the bounty program even started. The British failed because they treated a complex system as a simple line. They understood the economics of a bounty, but ignored the biological reality of the snakes and the predictable behavior of the citizens. To survive a world where these separate forces, economics, biology, and psychology, constantly collide, we need more than a single perspective. We must build a latticework of mental models, using multiple lenses at once to strip away our cognitive blind spots. The first major blind spot we face is assuming the abstractions we use to simplify the world are reality itself. We use maps, stereotypes, and financial statements to reduce complex information into digestible chunks. But a reduction is never the whole picture. This map shows the borders of the Middle East as proposed by the Sykes-Picot Agreement. These rigid lines were drawn by British and French diplomats to serve their own political interests, cutting unnaturally through the geographical topography. Those maps ignored the physical and cultural reality on the ground. When we blindly trust a map without actively updating our understanding based on the raw terrain, we step directly into danger. That danger is magnified when we misunderstand our own capabilities. If you spend your whole life in one small town, you know every detail about how it operates. You are a lifer. But if a stranger visits for 2 days and assumes they understand the town's complex social dynamics, that false confidence will lead them to make terrible decisions. There is no environment more unforgiving to the ego of a stranger than Mount Everest. High altitudes, extreme weather, and oxygen deprivation leave absolutely no room for assumed knowledge. The slopes are littered with the bodies of confident outsiders who stepped outside their circle of competence. The true lifers here are the Sherpa people. Pioneers like Tenzing Norgay developed an intimate, generational understanding of the mountain's hazards. Deferring to their specialized knowledge is the absolute requirement for surviving the ascent. Real mastery begins at the boundary of your knowledge. Success requires you to map the exact edges of your own ignorance, then defer to the lifers when the stakes move beyond your perimeter. Sometimes the problem isn't our lack of knowledge, but the quality of the knowledge we already possess. If you try to innovate by building on top of fragile, untested assumptions, your solutions will inevitably collapse. To find bedrock truth, we have to use first principles thinking. This is a systemic method of aggressively questioning a problem, stripping away all dogma and shared beliefs until you are left only with absolute, falsifiable facts. For decades, the medical community operated on a strict assumption. The human stomach was far too acidic for bacteria to survive. Because a bacterial infection was considered impossible, doctors diagnosed stress and diet as the primary causes of stomach ulcers. In the early 1980s, pathologist Robin Warren and gastroenterologist Barry Marshall shattered this dogma. They noticed bacteria in the stomach biopsies of ulcer patients. Instead of accepting the textbook consensus, they questioned the first principle of stomach sterility and proved that H. pylori bacteria actually caused the ulcers. By treating the underlying bacterial infection with antibiotics, they permanently cured the condition. Their refusal to accept the consensus saved millions of lives and earned them the 2005 Nobel Prize in Medicine. Real breakthroughs rarely come from tweaking the status quo. They happen when we stop accepting "because I said so" and systematically deconstruct a problem down to its structural bedrock. Even when we understand the terrain, know our limits, and find the bedrock facts, we still have to anticipate the future. In 1963, ecologist Garrett Hardin proposed his first law of ecology. In a densely interconnected world, you can never merely do one thing. Every action triggers a reaction. To navigate this safely, we use second-order thinking. We mentally simulate the future by constantly asking the question, and then what? For decades, the agricultural industry has fed massive quantities of antibiotics to livestock. The first-order goal is highly logical. Antibiotics act as bulking agents, allowing animals to gain more weight per pound of food. Fatter animals mean higher margins when you go to sell them. But the second-order effect of that constant exposure is the accelerated evolution of drug-resistant bacteria. By attempting to maximize short-term meat yields, the industry introduced highly resilient superbacteria directly into the foundation of the human food chain. If you optimize solely for the immediate payoff without modeling the subsequent ripples through the system, you are actively engineering your own long-term disaster. Relying on just one of these mental models creates a dangerous blind spot. An engineer thinks in systems. A psychologist thinks in incentives. To the man with only a hammer, every problem starts looking like a nail. To genuinely understand how the world works, investor Charlie Munger argued that we must build a latticework of mental models. By combining the fundamental laws of multiple disciplines, physics, biology, economics, we can cross-check our reasoning. You separate the math from the territory. You define your circle of competence. You drill down to first principles. You anticipate the second-order effects. When you lock them together, your perspective shifts from a flat, two-dimensional guess into a dense, three-dimensional understanding of reality. This system acts as a daily shield. In a modern environment defined by noise and rapid change, these models clarify the data streams, revealing the actual mechanics of the world. Wisdom is the byproduct of this clarity. By maintaining a web of interconnected models, you gain the foresight to perceive a problem's trajectory while there is still time to step out of its path.